There are moments in life when the weight of what you're carrying feels like it will crush you. Moments when the cracks in your soul seem too deep to mend. You try to patch yourself up with temporary fixes, distractions, people, habits, or quick solutions, but nothing seems to hold. The brokenness leaks through, and it is in those moments that heaven leans down and whispers, "My prayer over you will fix what you cannot fix yourself." God doesn't need your perfection, He needs your surrender. You see, prayer isn't just you talking to God, it's God talking over you. Before you even utter a word, there is a prayer coming from heaven, interceding on your behalf. When you don't know what to pray, when your words run dry, when your tears fall instead of sentences, God's Spirit groans for you. That's not just prayer, that's repair. That's not just communication, that's transformation. Sometimes what needs to be fixed in you isn't visible on the outside. The smile hides it. The success masks it. People clap for you, but they don't know the cracks in your foundation. They don't see the nights you wrestle with doubts, the mornings you wake up wondering if you have the strength to face another day. But let me tell you this, what man cannot see, God already knows, and His prayer is already addressing it. When God prays over you, He fixes the unseen places. He goes into the crevices of your heart where trauma, betrayal, disappointment, and pain have built their nests. He doesn't just heal the surface, He restores the structure. He doesn't just mend the wound, He revives the soul. And sometimes you won't even realize you've been fixed until one day you face the thing that used to break you, and it no longer has power over you. That's the evidence of divine repair. There's a reason the enemy tries to silence your prayer life. Because he knows if you ever align with God's voice, if you ever allow heaven's intercession to wash over you, every chain will fall, every lie will collapse, every broken piece will come back together again. Prayer is not weak, prayer is not passive, prayer is the hammer that shatters prison doors, prayer is the glue that binds you where life tried to tear you apart. Don't confuse delay with denial. God's prayer over you is not rushed, it's precise. He knows how to fix you without leaving scars that define you. He knows how to break you down only to build you up stronger. He knows how to reroute your life without wasting your pain. That's why some things didn't go the way you wanted. That's why some people left. That's why doors closed. It wasn't punishment. It was repair. Heaven was rearranging the pieces so that when you stand whole. So, stop trying to fix yourself with fragments of human wisdom. Stop believing that your healing depends on someone else recognizing your worth. Stop thinking you need to have it all together before God can use you. You don't have to fix it. You just have to trust Him. Because His prayer will reach where your strength cannot. His prayer will fix what your hands can't touch. His prayer will make you new again. There are times in life when you find yourself standing in the middle of battles that you never asked for, carrying weights that feel too heavy for your shoulders, and trying to mend cracks that your hands are too weak to fix. You reach for people, for solutions, for distractions, but the more you reach, the more you realize nothing on this earth can completely heal what has been broken inside. It is then that you must understand that the God who made you has also prayed over you. His prayer isn't like the words of men that fade into the air. His prayer is power. His prayer is life. His prayer is a restoration that digs deeper than any wound. God's prayer is not spoken to impress but to transform, and when He prays over you, He doesn't just touch the surface. He reaches the depths of your soul where no one else can see, where your wounds have been buried, where your fears have been hidden, where your insecurities have been silenced. Never healed, you may not realize that you are the subject of His intercession. While you are stumbling, while you are crying, while you are wrestling with things you cannot even articulate, heaven is already uttering groans that cannot be understood by human language. You might think prayer is only what comes from your lips, but let me tell you, there is a greater prayer moving on your behalf. Before you speak it, God already knows it. Before you cry it, God has already felt it. Before you collapse under the weight, His Spirit has already been groaning for you in a language that the enemy cannot intercept. That means the things that should have destroyed you, the nights that should have broken you, the failures that should have left you permanently fractured. Those moments were intercepted because God's prayer stepped in and fixed you before you even knew you needed fixing. And when He fixes you, He does it in ways that you might not even recognize at first. The very things that hurt you, the betrayals that scarred you, the doors that closed in your face, the disappointments that left you questioning your worth, those become the tools in His hands to realign your soul. You thought rejection was destroying you, but God was using it to redirect you. You thought the loneliness was killing you, but God was using it to strip away the voices that were drowning out His own. You thought failure defined you, but God was building a testimony in you that would carry more weight than any success. When He prays over you, He is not praying for temporary comfort. He is praying for eternal wholeness. There is a deep work happening in places that nobody applauds. People may see your smile, but never know the nights you wept. They may celebrate your success, but never feel the burden you carried behind the curtain. They may clap for your performance, but never see the cracks in your foundation. But God doesn't need an audience to fix you. He goes into the hidden places where the applause cannot reach, where the recognition cannot heal, and there He speaks life into the parts of you that you thought would never be restored. The repair is not about what people see. It's about what you know inside. When you wake up and realize the thing that used to torment you doesn't have the same grip anymore. And the enemy understands the power of that kind of prayer. That's why he fights you in your prayer life. That's why he sends distractions, discouragement, confusion, and fatigue, because he knows if you ever come into alignment with the prayer God is already praying over you, chains will fall off, strongholds will crumble, and you will rise with a strength you didn't know you had. The prayer that fixes you is not weak, it is not passive, it is not timid. It is a fire that burns through lies, a light that exposes darkness, a hammer that breaks down the prison doors around your mind, a balm that soothes the broken places in your heart. It is a repair that is not rushed, because God is not interested in patching you up. He is interested in making you whole. He takes His time because divine restoration is never sloppy. He breaks you carefully, rebuilds you intentionally, and breathes on you until your weakness becomes the very testimony of His strength. There are moments when you look at your life and see so many broken pieces scattered across the floor of your soul that you don't even know where to begin picking them up. You replay in your mind the choices that went wrong, the people who walked away, the pain that lingers even after the wound should have healed. And in those moments, you feel powerless to fix yourself, powerless to make sense of what feels shattered beyond recognition. But God's prayer is not limited by your brokenness. His prayer doesn't wait for you to be strong enough or wise enough to put yourself back together. His prayer enters the ruins of your life like a master builder, seeing not just what you are but what you can become once His hand has finished the work. He doesn't see rubble, He sees restoration. He doesn't see damage, He sees destiny. And while you're doubting whether you can even survive, His prayer is already working to revive you. Sometimes what needs fixing is not on the outside, but deep in the secret chambers of the heart. You can look polished, smile on cue, dress in excellence, and fool the world into thinking you've got it all under control. But beneath the layers lies the exhaustion, the fear, the shame, the disappointment that you don't even dare to speak. You have carried it so long that it feels normal. You have buried it so deep that it feels invisible. But God's prayer knows how to reach where hands cannot reach, where counselors cannot reach, where even your own words cannot reach. He speaks directly to the places that language cannot describe. His prayer is not bound by what you reveal, it penetrates into what you conceal, and what others cannot touch. He repairs with a love so precise that it doesn't just heal the wound, it erases the sting of the memory attached to it. It is important to understand that when God prays over you, He isn't praying for convenience, He is praying for transformation. We want comfort, but He wants completion. We want relief, but He wants restoration. So, when His prayer is working in your life, you might feel uncomfortable because it begins to move you away from what is familiar. The people you used to lean on may no longer be available. The places that gave you false peace may no longer satisfy you. The patterns you clung to for survival may start to break apart. It can feel painful, but it is purposeful. He is dismantling what was never meant to hold you so He can rebuild you on a foundation that will never fail. The shifting, the shaking, the unsettling, it's all a part of His prayer at work. When God's prayer fixes you, He fixes you in such a way that you won't even recognize yourself when He's finished. The insecurities that used to dominate your decisions begin to lose their grip. The bitterness that poisoned your perspective starts to dissolve. The fear that crippled your movement is replaced with courage that surprises you. And suddenly you find yourself standing in situations that once intimidated you, and now you are walking through them with boldness and peace. That's how you know His prayer has been working. It is not a shallow change. It is a deep reconstruction of the inner man. And yet, because His repair is so thorough, the process can take time. We live in a world that craves speed. We want instant healing, instant breakthrough, instant solutions. But God's prayer is not about speed. It is about accuracy. He is not rushing to patch you up for appearances. He is restoring you so that you will stand unshaken when storms come again. He takes His time because He is not interested in temporary fixes. He wants to make sure that when He heals you, when He repairs you, when He restores you, the very areas that were once weak will become the strongest testimonies of His grace. That's why sometimes He allows the breaking before the building, the emptiness before the filling, the silence before the song. Because He is not just healing you for now, He is preparing you for what is next. The enemy knows the power of this kind of fixing, which is why he wants to keep you distracted, restless, and discouraged in prayer. He wants you to give up before the repair is complete. He wants you to doubt whether God has heard you. He wants you to confuse delay with abandonment. But what he doesn't realize is that while you are waiting, God's prayer is still moving. While you are questioning, God's prayer is still aligning. While you are weary, God's prayer is still strengthening. His prayer never stops. It covers you in the night. It carries you through the day. It protects you from dangers you didn't even see coming. And every time the enemy thought he had you cornered, God's prayer fixed what the enemy meant to destroy. There are places in your life that you have learned to live with broken, areas you've convinced yourself will never change, parts of your story you've accepted as permanent scars. You've said to yourself, "This is just who I am now. This is just the way it will always be." But the truth is God's prayer has the power to reach into those places and fix what you thought could never be fixed. He specializes in the impossible, and when His Spirit intercedes for you, He doesn't just cover your weakness. He transforms it into strength. He doesn't just place a bandage over your pain. He extracts the poison and restores your vitality. He doesn't just comfort you in your brokenness. He remakes you until your brokenness becomes the very platform for your breakthrough. There is a prayer rising from heaven that you cannot hear with natural ears, a groaning that words cannot capture, and it is moving on your behalf. That prayer is standing between you and the forces that seek to break you completely. That prayer is filling the gaps where your faith has faltered, where your hope has run thin, where your patience has worn down. While you're busy fighting to hold yourself together, God's prayer is already doing the work of holding you in place. And it is because of that intercession that the enemy could not take you out when he wanted to, that despair could not sink you when it tried to, that failure could not destroy you when it came to your door. You have to understand that repair doesn't always look like what you imagined. Sometimes the fixing feels like breaking. Sometimes it feels like everything around you is crumbling. But what is really happening is God is pulling apart what was faulty so he can rebuild you on a foundation that will last. The walls you built to protect yourself may have also been walls that kept his healing out, and so he begins to tear them down. The people you thought you needed may have been voices that diluted his plan, and so he begins to separate them from you. The comfort zones you leaned on may have been cages that kept you from growth, and so he begins to shake you out of them. His prayer over you is not about maintaining what is fragile. It is about producing something unshakable. When God fixes you through prayer, the repair is not just for you. It is for everyone connected to you. Your healing becomes a testimony that heals others. Your restoration becomes a roadmap for someone else's deliverance. Your strength becomes a shelter for someone who is still weak. That's why the fight has been so intense, because the enemy knows if you ever step into the fullness of your repair, you will become a threat to everything he tried to destroy. Your fixed life becomes a weapon. Your restored soul becomes a testimony. Your healed heart becomes a light in dark places. And while the process unfolds, there will be moments when you don't recognize yourself anymore. The things that once triggered you lose their power. The thoughts that once tormented you no longer keep you awake at night. The habits that once controlled you suddenly fall away without the struggle they used to bring. That is the evidence of divine repair. God has been reshaping your identity, reminding you of who you really are, showing you that you are not defined by what broke you, but by who fixed you. He is not just making you better, he is making you whole. So when you feel the stretching, when you feel the discomfort, when you feel like pieces of your old life are being stripped away, don't panic. That is the sound of repair in progress. That is the prayer of heaven doing what your hands cannot do, fixing what your words cannot reach, mending what your effort cannot accomplish. And when the process is finished, you will stand in a place of strength you didn't know was possible. You will look back at seasons that once almost destroyed you and realize they were actually the places where God's prayer was fixing you piece by piece, moment by moment, until you became the living proof that nothing is too broken for him to restore.